And we are live. Welcome to Travel Insights, powered by the leading travel and tourism daily news portal, traveldailynews.com International Edition. We are celebrating our 24th anniversary with a special episode of Travel Insights with top travel and hospitality thought leaders. And I'm Chris Escodra. And in this interview series, I have the chance to interview those influential, inspiring thought leaders that talk about travel, tourism, hospitality trends, and they're sharing their own unique insights with me and with you out there tuning in and listening. Wherever you're watching us from, you're welcome, whether it's traveldailynews.com, our website, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Thank you for joining. Today, I'm ecstatic to bring to you my guest all the way from the US, Minnesota, right? Mr. Joe Pine. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Krista.
You are, I would say, the rock star, the godfather of the experience economy, a legendary person. And I have to say, I've interviewed a lot of people throughout my career, and I'm rarely starstruck, but I'm starting to feel some butterflies in me. So thank you for taking the time to come to Travel Insights.
Yep,
Uh,
I mean, it really is a pleasure. Nothing to fear. I'm just a pussycat, so don't worry.
Joe, your name is synonymous with the experience economy. This is a term that has been on the lips and minds of all the people that I have interviewed on Travel Insights. So people are familiar with your name and your work. Your legacy is already there. You have made a great impact, whether it is the hospitality industry, tourism, the creative industries, business in general. You're an internationally acclaimed author. You're a sought after speaker. You have written or co-written one of the best-selling books, the best business books of all time, and it's one of my favorite books, The Experience Economy, Work is Theater, and every business is a stage. I was taught that book. I've passed an exam on it during my master's degree studies. And I've later on included it in my own bibliography to my own students when I was teaching in higher education. So it's a great honor. I'm very humbled to have you here and to have met you and having the chance now to address all my questions because this is a very interesting topic and I have lots to ask you. You're a person who advises not only Fortune 500 companies but also startups. You advise governments around the world. So it's a great pleasure to have you here and uh, pick your brain on the topic. Today the topic of today's episode is the shift from experiences to transformations, and specifically in tourism and hospitality. You are the ideal person to open up this topic. So um Joe, if we would like to set the stage now and make sure that all our listeners and viewers are on the same page, tell us a little bit briefly about the four stages of economic progression. This is one of the key lessons learned. If somebody has read your book or is familiar with your work, this is the one item that has to be the one lesson learned that has to be very clear in their minds. Let's set the stage first, and then I want us to dive deep into today's topic and see where the transformations are coming in place.
Yeah, sure, Chrissy. The basic framework of our book, The Experience Economy, which, by the way, we re-released in 2020 with the subtitle "Competing for Customer Time, Attention, and Money." But the basic framework is called the progression of economic value, where we've gone from an economy based off commodities, the agrarian economy, through an industrial economy. And in the latter half of the 20th century, we shifted into a service economy. Well, today we're in an experience economy, an economy where experiences have become the predominant economic offering, that experiences are what consumers want today. And what that means is that goods and services become commoditized, or they're treated like a commodity where people don't care who makes them. They care about the brand. Their features are all pretty much the same anyway. They come to care about three things and three things only, and that's price, price, and price. Right? That's when goods and services have been commoditized. And if in tourism and hospitality you view your business as a service business, well, then guess what? You're going to be a commodity, and people will want to buy you at the low price and great convenience. But then there's that opportunity to shift up into experiences, to recognize that you're in the experience business. And the most important thing to understand about this progression of economic value, what we really have to fully understand, and not everybody's read the book is that experiences are a distinct economic offering, as distinct from services as services are from goods. Goods are basically the props and services the stage to engage each and every individual in an inherently personal way, and thereby create the memory, which is the hallmark of the experience. So that's what experiences are about. And tourism and hospitality is the number one sector of the experience economy. I mean, it is the biggest one. The World Tourism Association says that over 20% of the people in the world are employed in tourism in one way, shape, or form. And so it's just a huge industry.
Let's take things from the very beginning. I can go now. You've said a lot of keywords that I want to ask follow-up questions. So, today's topic is the shift towards from the experience economy towards the transformation economy. Are we entering, or have we already entered this new transformation economy era? And because for some people, perhaps the terms experience and transformation are still fuzzy in their mind. And as you said, you spoke about a distinct element. But what are they? How do you see the term transformation? How it differentiates from the term experience, and what is the impact that it has in the tourism and hospitality industries?
Yeah, so we could spend the next hour just on that question. But the
are we now into, or do you get the have we entered the experience, the transformation economy, or are we heading towards there?
Right. It's a shift. I wouldn't say we fully entered into it, but it's hot on the heels of the experience economy, right? Much closer than experiences were to services and services to goods. So transformations are the fifth and final economic offering in that progression of economic value. We use experiences as the raw material to guide people to change, in particular to help them achieve their aspirations. That's what transformations are about. That we all have aspirations and goals and aims in our life, but it's incredibly difficult to achieve those on our own. So we increasingly look to other companies, and in tourism and hospitality, other places, to be able to help us achieve those aspirations. Transformations are basically transformative experiences, right? Because we only ever change through the experiences that we have. And so you have to guide a set of experiences to help people achieve those aspirations. And again, we have those across various different sectors. And one of the things I like to say, there's an old phrase in the U.S. that dates back to Ben Franklin, right, one of the founders of the United States of America, who used the term healthy, wealthy, and wise. Mm-hmm. And any business that's in the business of helping people become healthy, wealthy, or wise is in the transformation business. And so there are huge sectors of that as well. The healthcare industry is all about transformation. Education is all about transformation, and financial services is about wealth. And so I think that there are many opportunities for many companies to recognize that, or at least to state, in fact, that this is the business that they're in. We're going to be in the business of transformations. And then we figure out, okay, what are the goods, the services, and the experiences that we need to do to be able to effect the change in each one of our individual customers. And that certainly applies to tourism as well, because increasingly we seek change when we travel. Jeffrey Kotler wrote a book, I think in the late 1990s, called "Travel That Can Change Your Life." And one of the things he recognized there was that when we travel is when we are most open to change. When we get out of our daily routines or quotidian life, and we explore, and we get out and experience something new, is when we are most open to to the possibility of change. And so it's a primary way, I think, for tourism and hospitality to continue to create great value and have more tourists, have more guests in hotels and so forth, and provide more value to each one of them, is to recognize what are the aspirations they're looking for, and how can we become part of, if not affect the entire transformation journey that they're on.
Mm. So, Joe, you said about aspirations, you talked about change. So, if we have on the one hand the experiences that tap into the human senses, our sense of hearing and seeing, and our emotions, um, and the desire to live those authentic and memorable moments in our lives. And you said that the hospitality and travel industries are the core of those, staging memorable experiences. When it comes to transformations now, are the aspirations, or what is it for the human psyche, or where do we tap into? Is it the self actualization? Is it reaching one's full potential? Does everybody want to be changed and renewed after a traveling experience? What do you think are the underlying drivers that make transformations more than just memorable experiences? And as you said, of course, experiences and services and goods are used as props and stages
Yep.
together with the experience to go a step further, perhaps charging a premium price for the overall uh, experience, transformative experience. So how do you see, what do we tap into when we talk about hospitality, the power of transformations in the hospitality industry?
Well, it is something that not everyone is seeking, or even
Mm,
if they are seeking, not everyone knows it, or not everyone wants it from the travel companies that they interact with. But there is a set that is open to it, and absolutely seeking for particular change. And it wraps up into all the things that you talked about self-actualization. There's often a spiritual component to it. There's often though a relationship component to it as well. It's like, I want a better relationship with my spouse or with my kids and so forth. And I'm looking, and one of the things we do is when we travel, you think particularly when your kids are in those tween to teenage years, when they no longer think that their dad knows everything in the world, and so you have a little break in that closeness of the relationship. It's very hard to reconnect with them, particularly at home when you got all these things going on in the daily vagaries of life. But if you can get away, it gives you more of an opportunity to that. There's also a lot of individual aspirations, such as I want to become a better golfer, and so I go to travel to a golf school and have a very concerted time of working on my swing. There are many others that aspirations. There's many aspirations as there are human beings and more in the world. And the question is, how can we fit into that, and how can we understand what their aspirations are, and then help them make a difference in their life. One of the things that's different from the other economic offerings is that the customer has to change themselves, right? You're only there to guide them, right? That's the economic function, is guiding, because they won't there's the old saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? So,
Mm,
so you can do everything, but if they don't want to change, it's not going to happen. So you got to
mm.
become partners with them. They have to collaborate with you in making that transformation happen, and only then does it make that lasting and profound change in each one of the individuals.
Exactly. So, do you see that we are there? There are some current existing trends of the new age travelers who are seeking such transformative experience. Because, as you said, it's all about the personal growth and your own uh, discovery journey. And how could the hospitality and tourism businesses facilitate such personal journeys? As you just touched upon, it takes a lot of co-creation. Is
Right.
there a trend? Are they travelers who are seeking those transformational journeys?
Yeah, and but it's not always apparent to us in the tourism and hospitality industry. And so one of the first things that we've got to do is we have to have some sort of conversation with them, some dialogue with them that understands what is the journey that they're on, and it is something that we can help with, because they often there are particular companies, they sort of separate out, and I don't want help with this. But again, I think travel companies, because of that openness that we have and that change that we're getting out of our quotidian life, that we have a much better chance of being able to help people go on that journey, or help them on the journey that they're on. So, so we have to understand, well, what's happened before this? What is the journey that we're on? What is your aspiration? And then how can we partake in that and become elements of it to be able to increase that level of transformation that you're looking for as you head back to your normal life.
Mm. In your work, you talk about mass customization. How would this concept work in hospitality and travel in an everyday o- o- way of working in everyday business? So, how do you see it playing out? You talked about having conversations. How could those be facilitated, and the hospitality establishments, the travel agency, all the stakeholders could get a better understanding in identifying and understanding the needs and aspirations of each of their customers in order to guide them into that transformative journey. Do you have any insights? How could this be applied in the everyday working environment?
Yeah,
Mass
well,
customization to get
right.
deeper insights. How is this? How can this be achieved?
Yeah, so mass customization is the title of my first book that I wrote before the Experience Economy, and it's basically about efficiently serving customers uniquely. There, I was only thinking in terms of products and services, but how do you design and deliver exactly the physical good or the intangible service that somebody wants? And what I came to realize is that mass customizing a good automatically turns it into a service, actually. That if you design a physical good, it's exactly what the person needs. You collaborate with them, understand what they need, and then and only then do you make it for them. Well, you've really turned it into the service of helping design, then make, and then deliver that individual good. And the same way, I discovered that if you design a service that is just appropriate for a particular person, exactly the service that they need at this moment in time, then you can't help but make them go, wow, and turn it into a memorable event, turn it into an experience. So mass customization is actually at the core DNA of this progression of economic value. You saw it as in the progression that we showed before, that you saw that customization was lifting you up as commodization drags you down, right? Commodization is like the law of gravity. If you do nothing else, you will be commoditized. But customization lifts you up. You can't help but be differentiated, meaning not a commodity, if you work with each one of those individual customers. So the secret to the mass part of customization is, in fact, Lego building bricks, right? Krista, what can you build with Legos?
I build a lot of things actually with my son.
Yeah, and
I've
you can
I've
basically
reached the
build.
point.
That's it.
But go ahead. Yes.
Yes. But basically, you can build anything that you want, right? Because you have a large number of modules and a simple and elegant linkage system for snapping them together. And that's what modularity is: modules plus linkage system. So we need to modularize our offerings and modularize our processes so that we can, in fact, give everybody exactly what they want. But you have to figure out what it is that they want. You've
Mm.
got to be able to dialogue with them. Again, one of the keys is have some sort of design tool to help people articulate what it is that they're looking for, and that
Mhm.
includes with the mass customized experiences and transformations. What are they looking for, so that we can then do something different for them? Now, the best I've ever seen
Mhm.
is from Carnival Corporation, the cruise company that
Mhm.
developed John Paget, their chief experience officer, and now they're president of Princess Cruises as well.
I think
Developed
we
this
have a
IoT.
video to show here, right? Let
Yes,
me
yes. Let me,
let
it's an
me
IoT device that
show
every
them.
person then connects with, and the shipboard employees all have a tablet that allows them to identify each individual person, and what they want to know is about what they call their guest genome. They want to know what makes that person tick. What is it that they are looking for? So they have, in fact, a mass customized itinerary of everything that they're doing. They can rate how much they like different things and so forth. And then as they learn more and more, they develop these experience intelligent tags that allow them to get at what makes this person tick in terms of the experiences that they want. That then, using machine learning, allows them then to be able to predict what are the things they're going to want in the future. So they can send them personal experience invitations, for example, where we think this is what's going on. We think you're going to like this, and then the more they do that, the more they learn again. Basically, they get to the point where they can even predict, right, exactly what you're going to want for a drink, depending on where you are, so that they can um, uh, you know that when you're on the pool deck with your kids, your favorite drink is an iced tea with no lemon. When you're on the in the bar with your buddies, it's a mojito. But when you're in the restaurant with your spouse, it's a glass of Shiraz. Right, same individual, but given my context, what is it that I'm looking for right now? And that level of mass customization is far beyond anything that I've seen elsewhere. But it's something that it's basically what I call an experience platform. And there are
Mhm.
now companies that are working on creating more generic experience platforms, even including I'm working with one particular tourism district to create one for the entire district, that every tourism entity can stand up and say, yeah, I want to be part of this, and plug into it. And then everything that they learn about a visitor in one place, they can then react to in another place, and vice versa. I think, and even in individual tours and so forth. And that's what we need to do. And then to get that to the transformation level, we need to start learning about their aspirations as well. We need to learn what are the things that are going to enable them to be able to change and so forth. And so you take some of those aspects of learning and bring them up to that transformation level, not just at the experience level.
Hmm. And Joe, you have spoken. Was it last year that I heard you talking on another podcast, and you said that the experience economy, if we go now a step back, we're in
Yeah.
transformation economy. So if we still go to the very relevant experience economy that I think it's flourishing, and I think you have
Yep.
put the seeds and planted the seeds already 20 plus years ago, and now we've seen that everybody understands or tries perhaps to still capitalize on the experience economy and bring those elements to their business and what makes sense to them. But you spoke on that podcast about the experience economy is all about, you said, time well spent,
Right.
and I agreed with you 100%. And I believe, and at that time, I was making another podcast on events, focusing on the event industry. And uh, the how I understood this is that, especially the past 3 years, that we all endured the loneliness of the pandemic and those very confusing times, and the isolation, we realized that our time is indeed very valuable. We have to be very picky. Where to which events we go, to which
Right.
destinations we're going, to which hotels we are sleeping in, and so on. Because if our time is really hospitality currency, this is what is valuable. If I don't spend my time there, maybe it's taken out from the way the time I spend with my son or with my partner, or being in the nature. So um, if we think about the experience economy and the importance of and the value of time. If we add to that the emotional parameters, what do you think is relevant in terms of transformation? What is the currency there? Is it still relevant? Is it time and transformation that are the currencies? What is to be exchanged there?
Right. So beautiful set of questions. Again, something we can talk about for the next hour. But so first of all, recognize, Krista, that the time of individual human beings is the most precious resource on the planet.
Mm,
Right. And I mean that literally. It's the most
mm.
precious resource on the planet.
Do
And
you
when
have
we
the same
wait,
saying in the US where you say time is money?
yes.
They say the same, or how is it?
But also recognize money is time.
Money is
So
time.
money is time, because time is money. Money is time. And we actually, in the re-release of the book in 2020, we introduced a new measure for the experience economy called the money value of time. That if you look at the expenditure per minute that people are spending, then you can gauge how intense, how well you are doing as an experience relative to others. Right? You can do even cross industry comparisons by looking at the money value of time. Um, and because time is so precious, right? The worst thing we can do is waste our customers' time. And companies do that all the time because they view their own processes as wanting to be more productive and more and get costs out of it. Even that causes their customers to have to spend more time in ways that they don't want to do. But what services do is they provide time well saved, right? That you save my time, you do something for me is what a service is. Experiences, as you mentioned, are time well spent. That people value the time. That's why you got to measure the money value of time. The core measurement of any experience is time. Is the time they spend with you and how much they value that time. Well, with transformations, it's time well invested. Time well invested. So time is still critical, but now the transformative experiences that I'm having with you is I'm investing that time to be able to pay a dividend and compound interest now and into the future. And so that time is still a very critical thing and something that you want to be able to measure. So like time is the currency of experiences. It still will be for the transformation economy. Money is always the currency of any economy. But the other key one with transformations is outcomes. It's about outcomes. It's about, did you actually achieve the transformation that you wanted to have? With transformations, inputs don't matter. They may be fine, well and good and that sort of thing, but they don't get you the outcome that you want. Then they didn't make a difference in your life. So how do you focus on those outcomes and actually ideally measure those outcomes with your customers, and then use that to be able to say, okay, what are the set of experiences that we need to create, which again are built on top of services, built on top of goods, made out of commodities, that it takes to be able to effect the change that you want and get the outcome you desire.
Excellent. So that leads me perfectly to my next question, something that I wanted to ask you for a long time. So you spoke about the money value of time and the time spent versus the time invested in the we've
Yeah.
talked about transformations. So when we talk about, because our listeners perhaps are people from the industry, they're travel and tourism professionals, hospitality professionals, so perhaps they're interested about metrics and how to measure, how to. So I would like to ask you, how can tourism hospitality professionals measure and analyze that transformative impact of their transformative offerings to their guests? um, is it because it seems a bit hard to measure how that can be done efficiently, that the data is reliable, that you can say, yes, indeed, we offer that transformative
Yeah.
experience, because it's very subjective. So, do you have any insights and specific metrics, and how could this be measured for every guest that engages to that to a transformative offering?
Yeah, it's still not clear if there's going to be any one measurement that wins the way. But I think there's a number of things that we look at. First, at the
Mhm.
time well spent aspect of the experience, which again, they're transformative experiences. But then, do they view that as time well invested? So there's a lot of qualitative things that we can do to be able to measure time well spent and time well invested. But then again is the outcome, and the ideal that you want to do with transformations is charge for the demonstrated outcomes that your customers achieve.
Mhm.
Right? That's what it's about. I always say you are what you charge for. If you charge for undifferentiated stuff, you're in the commodities business. If you charge for tangible things, you're in the goods business. If you charge for the activities your people perform, you're in the services business. Well, experiences is where you charge for time, mission fee, membership fee, a per play fee, other ways of being able to do it. But you're charging for the time that your customers spend with you because that's what they value. And with experiences, you should be charging for outcomes. But it is often very subjective. Now, there are some things that you can actually quantify. Like, so for example, I mentioned golfing and getting better at golfing. In golfing, there's a handicap system that allows you to know exactly how good you are and how you're playing, that allows you to compete with other people that are much better or much worse than you are. So you can measure by handicap, right? And it's like if I can transform you into what's called a single digit handicapper golfer, which is a really good golfer, then that's the outcome you want. That's when you get paid a large portion. There are other things that can be measured in that way as well, but many others are incredibly subjective. So one of the things you can do there is make it completely up to the customer, right? To the aspirant that you have, to your guest in your place. Did you do what you said you're going to do? Did you get the outcome that you wanted? And offer something like a transformation guarantee, where we're going to, here's the full fees that we charge. But if you didn't get the outcome that you wanted, then we offer a guarantee of 10, 15, 20, 25%, whatever it might be, to ensure that you achieve your aspiration. And when you offer a transformation guarantee, the first thing it does is it changes you internally. It's like as a company, you got to recognize, in order to get that money, which is going to be all profit, we have to ensure that the transformation happens. We've got to do everything we can to be able to make sure that happens. And so it puts the onus on you to do all that you can. And most people, obviously, there's some people that are going to just automatically say, okay, I'm just going to get that money back, right? But most people are going to be very honest, particularly about a transformative change, particularly about something that changes who they are, to be able to say, yeah, that is really what I wanted, and that full payment happens.
I see the point. I'm just thinking that perhaps some people might be more cautious of their privacy. They wouldn't like to perhaps communicate that we've
Right.
had this transformative experience, a very personal and sensitive matter to them, especially if it includes their, personal relationships. But of course, that could be still. I think even with those constraints, some room for creativity and perhaps where word of mouth would come in place and other ways to communicate about such transformative experience. Perhaps not everybody would be
Right.
bragging about the transformation, but there have to be ways to communicate that so that it could be beneficial for everybody.
Right. There are many people that say that if for privacy or other reasons they don't want to communicate with you, well, then you have to sell it as an experience, right? Hopefully, it's still a transformative experience, so it's going to still provide more value, still be able to charge a premium for it, but you won't be able to affect that actual transformation because they won't engage with you on what that is.
And
Uh,
I think that builds that's excellent because it can build the relationship, a long-term
right.
relationship with the client, the guest. So then you could have a follow-up with whether it's a wellness coach or what could be the title of the person, the transformation coach that you engaged during your stay. Maybe that person could create a relationship with you in the near future. Do you see this happening, creating this long-term relationship with guests? And because you touched upon the personalization and perhaps the relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it is often difficult for somebody to transform in one fell swoop, to
Mm,
have that truly
mhm,
life transforming experience.
right.
Usually it takes a series of experiences. So, yeah, you want to form that relationship. That's one of the things that the mass customization does, because
Mhm.
the more you customize, the more you interact with people, the more you can learn about them. And the more you learn about them, the better you can customize to them. The better you customize to them, the more they're going to benefit. The more they benefit, the more they're going to be willing to interact with you. And every interaction is an opportunity to learn. So you get this nice little virtuous cycle around each individual customer, the more they interact with you. So it's a great way to be able to get into that. And then over time, those experiences can be more and more transformative. You can move people up to different levels. You can even allow them to go beyond the particular aspiration that they had, that they achieved, and now, well, what's the next one? What's the next step that I want to take on my journey, and become their trusted partner and being able to do that.
Mm. May I ask, what are the most common questions that you are asked from hospitality and tourism companies? What are they curious to ask you? Are they wondering about the transformation economy? Is it on top of their mind, on top of their agendas, or do they have other concerns?
The I think other concerns still predominate. One of the things they're particularly concerned about is the use of technology and how they bring technology into it. Hotel companies, in particular, are still so focused on cost savings versus guest experiences, and they need and like and then, so they but they recognize the value of mass customization. But how do I go about doing that? How can I? What technology need? What changes do I need to make, and so forth. A lot of questions are around their people and how they have those people create the great experience for guests, which I always say, well, then you need to understand theater, that when you're staging an experience, work is theater, and you need to act in a way that engages the audience. And the nice thing about it is it requires no capital equipment. You can just direct your workers to act and help them characterize their roles and let them act on your business stage, and you can greatly uptick the experience. With transformations, still there are some, mostly when they do it, they think about their like spa and wellness, right, or retreats and so forth, and that's the level that they're at, which is still going to be basically whatever your state you're coming in, whatever you're looking for. Well, here's sort of this, we're going to do the same things for you, right? They haven't thought yet about how they integrate, how they have an ecosystem of partners to be able to provide in the experience that individual people need, how they need to be the hub to be able to send them out into the tourism area that they're in, to be able to get what they need, and then interact with others. That's again where an operational experience platform allows them to interact with all the people in the tourism area, would go great ways to giving a better experience on property, as well as a much better experience off property, and as well as a transformative experience when you combine all of it together.
Do you think that AI, because you spoke about the impact of technology, which is top
Yep.
of their mind of the people in the industry, do you think that AI could really facilitate and help add value to this ecosystem and the variety of stakeholders involved? Or do you see some perils as well to the use of technology?
Yeah, I think it can be of great benefit, whether it's aimed properly or not, and we ask the right questions of it, but it can be of great benefit if you understand that it can learn what works and what doesn't. I think that's one of the key things, and what works and what doesn't for each individual customer. You think about what Carnival is doing and be able to have access to this information, but you still have to be able to predict what it is that they're going to want, what experiences that they need to have. And that means you need to understand psychological and emotional factors to be able to do that. And that's something with enough data that AI could definitely help you do. And also understand, generative AI, the chat GPTs and DALL-E's of the world today are all working off of large language models that they're looking at basically almost the entire internet, and to be able to predict what the next word is they're going to give out, or what the next pixel is on an image, and so forth. Um, and eventually, we're going to get to where people have their own, not uh, LLMs, large language models, but PLMs, personal language models,
Mhm.
right? How about understand me as an individual, and that let me have my own AI, and I'll decide that knows who I am and is basically my agent, my butler in the world, and then I'll give you access to a level that I feel comfortable with. And for some, it's nothing, and others, it's a little bit. But the more relationship again that we have, the more I'm willing to give access. And now you can understand much more about what makes me tick, and that interaction between the large language models and the personal language models would allow a great deal of knowledge sharing, a great deal of being able to figure out what is going to be the right experience in the right way at the right time for each individual guest.
Mm. So we spoke about, you spoke before about the cost, saving costs and the human factor. What skills should the people working in the industry of tomorrow, in the hotels of tomorrow, in the travel organizations of tomorrow have to be able, you, because now they have to be psychologists, actors,
Yep.
experts in AI. So what is the skill set really that what do you see? Because I think you are a futurist. You are an evangelist in hospitality and business. So many of the things you have said, you've accurately predicted, or you made sure to guide the business minds towards a specific direction. And I want to pick your brains on this. What are your insights? What is the skill set of the hospitality professional of the future? Because I think the strategic decisions that the high management is taking has to keep that in mind. How do we get the right people to guide the right transformations for our uh, guests?
Okay. So, so thank you for the compliment, Chris. Although I always say I'm not a futurist, I don't tell you what's going to happen. I tell you what's already happening, but you don't yet see it.
Mhm.
And so again, transformations being built on top of experiences. Yes, acting skills is a core thing. I mean, almost the core thing that people need. Anybody that interacts with customers needs to act on stage. Now, it doesn't mean that you're being fake or phony, right? Acting certainly can be fake or phony, but it doesn't have to be. It's a matter of revealing what parts of yourselves that you want your guests, your customers, the people you interact with to see. And that's what keeps acting as very authentic, in fact. But once you've got that, when you get to the transformation level, it's a word you used, I've used earlier, it's guide, right? You got to be an actor and you have to be a guide. And a guide has a lot of high requirements because you've got to know what you're guiding into. You've got to also know who this individual customer is and be able to read them in real time. So now you get into that, what's academics call emotional labor, into psychology, into being able to understand. And I think, like great concierges, do this very well and have sort of the natural skills to be able to do that. But these sorts of things can be taught. You don't have to use the word guide. You can think of it as a coach, right? As I'm coaching somebody, or as a navigator and advocate. There's a lot of words that you can choose from. But those are the two key things. Whether the people of the future will need to become great prompters, as it's being called with generative AI, to be able to figure out what's the right prompt that's going to get me there. Hopefully, I think that level of the technology will be hidden from the individual humans, that they'll be able to um, um, get the output from it from prompts that we understand that we're going to ask of people all the time. But yeah, maybe be able to come up with a unique one for a unique individual about, what is the right experience that this person needs to have at this moment in time to continue on their transformation journey.
Mhm. Uh, we could go on and on for hours. I have lots to ask you. We're approaching the end of the show, and I would like to ask you, John, what do you see still in the near future? If there are companies in hospitality and tourism that they're thinking to embrace this shift, what advice you could give them at the moment so they can be ahead of the game, ahead of the curve? If they had identified that that's a great way for us to differentiate, can they stage experience and guide transformation at the same time? Is it
Yeah.
something mutually exclusive, or is it complementary? Could it be something found in the interactions of the two experiences and transformations? Give your insights to the professionals out there. If they believe in the concept, they want to be in the transformation business, they think that this will play out very well in the future, and they want to be ahead of their game and working on something towards that end. What do you see? What advice could you give?
Well, one of the things I always tell companies or ask companies is, what business are you really in? Right? Decide what business are you really in, and put that stake in the ground. Now, what it doesn't mean that you're still not selling the lower order economic offerings, right? If you're a service company like a Starbucks, you're still selling a cup of coffee. It's a physical good, and I think though with tourism and travel companies, with hospitality, that it's going to be a long time before you're fully in the transformation business, right? I say to healthcare companies, you're in the transformation business. I say to financial service companies, you're in the transformation business. Education, you're in the transformation business. But tourism will long have experience as a large, if not the largest component of it, versus the transformation. Transformation is a big growing component, though. So you want to recognize, yes, I'm in the experience business, but that also includes transformative experiences, that I can take those experiences and use them to be able to help guests to be able to go along this journey and achieve their aspirations. You need to hold that out as sort of like we're both of these businesses, but do not neglect the core experience that you want to provide. Again, because it's because of those experiences that we transform. And then you need to decide, what are your economic offerings? How are we going to charge for this? What's the core offering that we're going to create for people, and determine what that is. And then you can then have, okay, well, these are experience offerings, but then these are transformation offerings. The majority may be experience, but what is the transformation? I'd encourage you, again, you are what you charge for, is look at changing your rack rate in a hotel, for example, as not a nightly thing, but it's a membership, it's an admission fee to the great guest experience that you're going to have. Make it a 24-day fee, for example. So it's a daily admission fee. Most people are still going to leave before the full time they check out, and then start looking at, well, what are things that we can charge for in addition to that and above that to get to that transformation level, and start measuring time well spent, measuring outcomes. And that will go a long ways to be able to shift you into something where you're creating much more value for your guests, and therefore much more economic value for your company.
Joe, when you travel around the world, and you do travel a lot and you speak to a lot of people from different walks of life and cultural backgrounds and different cultural mindsets, do you get feedback that perhaps this is a too US Americanized way of thinking that wouldn't happen here in Asia, or wouldn't happen in Greece, or it wouldn't happen in Europe? Do you get such feedback when it comes to the cultural differences and the perspective you're bringing, or are they seeing the point and they think, oh, what is your input on that?
Yeah, they almost everywhere I go in the world, Asia, Europe, Africa, and North and South America, everybody understands it, right? Everybody understands that wherever they are, people prefer experiences over things, and transformations is newer. But also, everybody looks to have a better life. Everybody looks to be a better person. Everybody looks for better relationships, to improve at various things that they're doing. And so they are universal in that standpoint, right? The 5 economic offerings are universal. But how you go about that, what particulars that people want, can be very, very cultural dependent. And so I'm not an expert on those cultures, but if you understand the basic ideas and then be able to translate them into what could work for your particular culture, then that's where magic can happen.
That's where magic happens. Joe Pine, have you reached your full potential in life? Have you completed all your aspirational goals? And where do you see yourself in the future? Tell us a little bit what you're working on and what legacy you want to leave behind.
So very interesting. So I have not reached my full potential. I did get down to a single digit handicap golfer for a while, but then I'm back up, and so I'm working hard to be able to get back down on that little point. I continue to say, my purpose in business is to figure out what's going on in the world of business, and then develop frameworks to first describe what's happening, and then prescribe what companies can do about it. So one of the things I've long been asked, because transformations were always implicit in the experience economy. The chapters 9 and 10 of the book from 1999 onwards had transformations in it. And people would often ask, well, when are you going to write a full book on that? And I say, well, one is I don't know enough about it, and 2, the world isn't ready for it yet. Well, now I know so much more about it, and learning more, particularly with my colleagues at company Stone Mantle. We've been doing a transformation economy collaborative over the last year, and learning a ton on direct consumer insight of what they're looking for and how they think about transformation. And so I'm learning a lot more about it, and the world is ready for it. So, starting to write a book on that. One of the first salvos in that was an article in the January February Harvard Business Review last year that called "The New You Business." That is about treating people as a new you, help them achieve those aspirations. I'm also working with my partner Jim Gilmore. We have a master class coming up in just a few weeks here in Minneapolis area, Minnesota, on a new idea called customering, where the idea is being that there are no markets, there are only customers. So stop marketing and start customering, right? Jim came up with that term, a great term. We put meat on the bones as to what that means. So we're also working on that in this master class, and then writing a book on it. And there's other ideas that are out there that I'm working with. I don't plan on ever retiring. I'm just, I might change the ratio of work to golf a little bit, but I don't plan on ever retiring. And as long as people continue to pay me, I'll keep coming up with the ideas and working with them directly on it. And then also there's a whole nother set of ideas on outside of business and life itself, which is all about how do I glorify God? How do I help in people understanding who God is and what God is all about? And so I'm working actually on books on apologetics and being able to help explain that as well and teach what the cores of Christianity are. So it's a full plate. I got two grandkids now. They were just over here over the weekend, taking care of them. That's the most tiring
Busy.
thing that you could do, but helping to lead that next generation as well.
I love your enthusiasm about life, your curiosity. We see your bookshelf behind there. You love obviously reading a lot and thinking. You're a great thinker, a doer, a great grandfather, golfer. Super humble and honored to have met you and have had a chance to ask you my questions. All the best to your books, your workshop, your master classes. I'd love to join. So keep me updated, and you have a great newsletter. People should subscribe to it. So this is the website strategichorizons.com. You can find tons of interesting content about Joe, his work together with his partner Jim Gilmore. Excellent professionals, great examples of human beings. So thank you so much, Joe, for taking the time. I hope this was time well spent for you, our discussion.
Absolutely, Chris. It was a pleasure being with you. I actually wrote down a couple of notes of things that I thought of as we were talking, so that could make a difference. Yes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Hopefully, I had a chance to put a couple of seeds also and keep your brains working on some of the issues I've been wondering. So, hopefully, you out there, our listeners, you had a chance to think and get inspiration and great ideas for your business, for your everyday life. Thank you so much. Joe Pine was with me in one of our special 24-year anniversary episodes here on Travel Daily News. I'm Chris Escodra, and I'll see you next week. Thank you, Joe. Greetings from
Thank you.
Finland. And for all of you, if you want to find out more about the hospitality and travel industry, the latest update, check out traveldailynews.com. And of course, follow me every Wednesday with a new inspirational guest here in the studio, discussing and opening up an interesting topic for your ears and eyes only. And of course, make sure you check out our website and send me here an email at press@traveldailynews.com. Me and my colleagues behind this email would love to hear from you and inspirational ideas and insightful topics you may have. So thank you for tuning in and listening. I'll see you next week. Bye.